Stop. Right there. Before you spend another quarter, check your change now. One ordinary-looking 1,991 D Washington quarter could be hiding details most people never notice. Nobody talks about these quiet treasures until collectors start chasing them. Today, we're exposing 3 coins that could make you look at your pocket change completely differently. Stay with me, because what comes next gets even more shocking. And the final coin is the one you absolutely don't want to miss. Coin number 1. Imagine finding an old, dark quarter in your change, almost dismissing it because of the black spots and worn-looking surface. Now stop. Before that coin goes back into a cash register, look at the tiny letter beneath Washington's neck. If it says D, you're looking at the Denver-minted 1,991 Washington quarter. And this is where the story gets interesting, because collectors don't simply look at whether a coin is old. They hunt for condition, striking quality, errors, varieties, and unusual surfaces that separate an ordinary coin from a collectible one. The 1,991 Washington quarter arrived during a very different America. The country was moving through an important economic transition, and the United States Mint was producing enormous numbers of everyday coins for commerce. That means most 1,991 D quarters were never intended to become treasures. They were meant to be spent, carried, dropped, scratched, and eventually returned to circulation. That brutal journey is exactly why a genuinely exceptional survivor can attract attention today. Turn the coin over. On the front, you should see George Washington, with liberty above him and "In God We Trust" beside the portrait. The date 1,991 appears at the bottom, while the small D mint mark identifies Denver. On the reverse, the powerful eagle design is surrounded by United States of America, E pluribus unum, and $quarter. These details may look familiar, but collectors examine them under magnification because tiny abnormalities can completely change the conversation. And here's something you can actually feel. A standard Washington quarter from this era weighs about 5.67 grams, measures roughly 24.26 millimeters across, and is about 1.75 millimeters thick. Its approximate circumference, or girth, is about 76.2 millimeters. The coin is made from a copper core bonded to copper-nickel outer layers. So if your quarter feels normal, that doesn't automatically mean it is ordinary. The real question is what happened to its surfaces and whether anything unusual occurred during production. Now look closely at that black, rusty-looking appearance. Do not automatically assume ugliness means rarity. Dark toning, dirt, stains, environmental damage, and corrosion can actually reduce desirability. But unusual original toning can sometimes tell a story about how a coin was stored for decades. That is why you should never clean this coin. Scrubbing, polishing, chemicals, or abrasive materials can permanently destroy the original surface and leave collectors wondering what you were trying to hide. The missing mint mark is another important point. A normal 1,991 D quarter should show the D. If yours appears to have no mint mark, don't immediately celebrate. Examine it carefully first. Dirt, wear, damage, or weak striking can make a mint mark difficult to see. This tiny letter is exactly the kind of detail collectors obsess over, because one small difference can send a coin down a completely different collecting path. Here's where patience matters. Don't start scraping the black spots. Don't rub the date. Don't throw it into a cleaning solution. Put the coin somewhere safe, handle it by the edges, photograph both sides, and compare the details under good lighting. If you genuinely believe you have an unusual example, professional grading is critical. Authentication and condition assessment are far more important than an exciting number attached to a random internet listing. And I want to be careful about the huge $89,000 figure supplied for this video. A normal 1,991D Washington quarter is not generally worth anything close to that amount, simply because of its year, mint mark, or dark surface. A major value would require credible evidence, such as a documented error, exceptional grade, or another recognized rarity. That's the real secret behind serious coin collecting. Don't chase a number, chase the evidence. A genuine rarity can become hidden wealth, but an ordinary damaged quarter is still just a quarter. That doesn't make your search pointless. Quite the opposite. Millions of coins are moving through American hands every day, and most people never inspect them. Collectors are looking for the tiny details everyone else ignores. If supply of truly exceptional examples is limited while demand grows, competition can become intense. Some collectors would rather hold a remarkable coin than sell it, especially when another example may not appear for years. So before you spend a 1,991D quarter, check the date, inspect the D mint mark, study Washington's portrait and the reverse details, and look for genuine mint-made abnormalities rather than damage. Do not spend this coin if you believe something unusual is present. And remember, original toning matters, but dirt and corrosion are not automatically valuable. The difference can be microscopic. This is the part most people miss. The biggest opportunity isn't simply finding an old quarter, it's recognizing when an ordinary-looking coin deserves a second look. That is why patience can matter more than excitement. Keep searching, keep your coins untouched, and verify before believing any enormous price claim. But don't go anywhere. The next coin takes this hunt into even more dangerous territory because its story involves a tiny detail that can turn a coin everyone ignores into something collectors desperately want. Stay till the end. The next discovery could be the one hiding in your own change. Up coin number 2. Coin 2, 1,997D Washington quarter. There's a reason I want you to look twice at this 1,997D Washington quarter. At first glance, it looks like the kind of coin you could toss into a vending machine without thinking twice. But that ordinary appearance is exactly what makes the hunt so addictive. A coin can pass through hundreds of hands before someone finally stops and asks, "Wait, what exactly am I holding?" So if you have a 1,997 quarter nearby, grab it and look closely before you spend it. The year 1997 sits in an interesting period of modern American history. The United States was enjoying strong economic growth, technology was rapidly changing everyday life, and cash was still a huge part of daily commerce. The U.S. Mint was striking enormous quantities of Washington quarters for people to spend. These coins were built for circulation, not for collectors. They were pushed through registers, pockets, machines, drawers, and jars, and many were eventually damaged beyond recognition. That's why condition becomes so important. Your example is described as fine condition, with a Barwon shed appearance. If that means an old, weathered, toned, or stored surface, inspect it carefully before assuming the appearance makes it rare. Genuine age-related toning can be interesting, but grime, corrosion, scratches, or environmental damage can hurt a coin's value. The first rule is simple: do not clean it. A shiny-looking coin is not automatically a valuable coin. Now turn it over in your hand. The obverse features the familiar portrait of George Washington. Around the design are the words "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," with the date 1997 positioned below the portrait. On a Denver example, the small D mint mark appears near the lower area of the obverse. That tiny letter is one of the first things you should check. It confirms that the coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Flip it to the reverse, and you'll see the classic eagle design used on Washington quarters of this era. Around the eagle are United States of America and E pluribus unum, with $quarter at the bottom. It may look completely familiar, but collectors know that familiar designs deserve close inspection. Look around the lettering, date, mint mark, rim, and major design elements for anything that appears genuinely unusual rather than simply worn or damaged. And now for the physical clues. A standard 1997 Washington quarter weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and is roughly 1.75 millimeters thick. Its approximate circumference, or girth, is about 76.1 millimeters. The coin uses a copper core bonded to outer layers of copper nickel, giving it that familiar modern quarter appearance and feel. But here's where the search gets exciting. Imagine two 1997D quarters sitting side by side. One is heavily scratched, worn, stained, and ordinary. The other has sharp details, attractive original surfaces, and perhaps a genuine mint-made error or variety. To an untrained eye, they are nearly identical. To a serious collector, they can be completely different coins. That is why collectors obsess over tiny details. Look at the D mint mark under magnification. Check whether the date is clear. Examine the lettering for unusual doubling or distortion. Study the rim and edge for anything that looks genuinely abnormal. But remember, damage caused after the coin left the mint is not the same thing as a valuable mint error. A scratch, dent, stain, or flattened area usually tells you about the coin's life in circulation, not a secret fortune. And this is where people make their biggest mistake. They find a dark or dirty quarter, see an enormous value online, and immediately assume they've discovered a jackpot. Don't do that. The real treasure hunt requires patience. Original toning matters, but environmental damage can work against value. Never use polish, vinegar, chemicals, brushes, or abrasive materials. Once you alter the surface, you may destroy the very evidence a professional needs to evaluate the coin. Now let's talk about the huge $71,000 market figure provided for this video. A standard 1997D Washington quarter is not automatically worth anywhere near that amount simply because it is from 1997 or carries a D mint mark. A price that high would require credible documentation of a truly exceptional example, such as a major recognized error, extraordinary grade, or another verified rarity. That distinction matters if you want to avoid misleading yourself or someone else. Still, that doesn't mean you should ignore your change. Far from it. Modern coins can contain varieties and errors that collectors actively search for, and genuinely scarce examples can attract serious competition. When a remarkable coin appears at auction, bidding can become aggressive because collectors know another example may not show up soon. Some buyers would rather hold a special piece than sell it, especially when supply is extremely limited. So what should you do if you think your 1997D quarter is unusual? First, don't spend it. Handle it by the edges. Photograph both sides in good lighting. Use magnification But don't scrape or rub anything. Compare the design carefully and look for evidence of a genuine mint-made feature. If something seems promising, professional authentication and grading are critical before you attach a life-changing price to it. And there's another reason this coin feels like hidden treasure. Most people never stop to inspect their change. They see 25 cents and move on. That mindset can completely change how you look at every coin that lands in your hand. The real silent fortune isn't guaranteed. It has to be proven. That's what makes the hunt so exciting. You could hold a completely ordinary quarter, or you could discover a coin with a detail that demands a closer look. The difference may be tiny, but the investigation is where the opportunity begins. So the next time a 1997D Washington quarter lands in your change, don't throw it into the spending pile automatically. Check the date. Check the D. Study the surfaces. Look at the rim. And most importantly, don't destroy the evidence by cleaning it. Because we're not finished yet. The next coin has an even more dangerous detail to watch for, one that could make you rethink every ordinary piece of change sitting in your house right now. Stay with me, because the next discovery could be the one everyone else already spent without ever knowing what they had. Coin number 3. There's something almost dangerous about a beautiful old quarter. It looks too ordinary to be important, yet that is exactly why people keep spending coins that deserve a second look. If you have a 1973 Washington quarter with no mint mark, hold on to it for a moment. Don't rush to spend it. The first thing you need to understand is that a missing mint mark on this particular year is normal, not automatically an error. But the details surrounding that blank space, the condition, and the coin's originality can make the hunt fascinating. The year 1973 was a turbulent period in the United States. The country was dealing with inflationary pressure, energy concerns, and major economic uncertainty. At the same time, Americans were still using coins constantly in shops, petrol stations, vending machines, and cash registers. The mint needed huge quantities of quarters for everyday commerce. Philadelphia alone produced 346,924,000 regular strike 1,973 quarters, while Denver produced another 2,977 400th, so this was not a tiny mintage coin. The mystery is not simply how few were made, it is whether a particular survivor has something exceptional about it. Now take a close look at the front. The coin carries liberty above Washington's portrait, "In God We Trust" beside him, and the date 1973 below. Because this is a Philadelphia issue, there is no mint mark beneath the date area. That detail is completely expected for a 1973 Philadelphia quarter. Philadelphia did not begin placing a P mint mark on circulating quarters until later, so you should never mistake the blank area on a 1973 quarter for a missing letter error. That little distinction can save you from believing an exaggerated valuation. Turn the coin over, and the classic reverse immediately grabs your attention. The eagle stands proudly with its wings spread, holding arrows, while the surrounding inscriptions read United States of America, e pluribus unum, and $quarter. The Washington quarter design was created by John Flanagan, and the reeded edge gives the coin its familiar, ridged feel. When you rotate the quarter under light, those tiny lines around the edge should appear consistent rather than looking unusually damaged or altered. And now feel the coin. A standard 1973 Washington quarter weighs approximately 5.67 grams, measures about 24.30 millimeters in diameter, and is roughly 1.75 millimeters thick. Its approximate circumference, or girth, is about 76.3 millimeters. The coin is made from 75% copper and 25% nickel over a pure copper center, the clad composition used for regular Washington quarters from this era. These specifications are useful because if your coin is dramatically different in weight or dimensions, that is when you have a reason to investigate further rather than simply assuming rarity. But here's where your beautiful-looking example becomes interesting. You described it as fine condition with a beautiful appearance. That matters because collectors care enormously about surfaces. A coin that has survived decades with attractive, original-looking surfaces can be much more appealing than one covered in deep scratches, harsh cleaning marks, corrosion, or heavy damage. Fine condition means there is noticeable wear, but the major design remains clearly visible. The key question is whether the beauty you see is original or something that happened to the coin later. Look at Washington's cheek, jaw, hair, and the lettering around the portrait. Then move to the reverse and study the eagle, arrows, lettering, and rim. Collectors can become extremely picky about contact marks, scratches, weak strikes, and surface quality. A coin can look gorgeous from across the room and reveal dozens of problems under magnification. That is why the smallest details can become the biggest part of the story. And here's a warning I want you to remember. Never clean this coin. If it has natural toning, leave it alone. Original toning can contribute to the character and appeal of an old coin, while polishing, rubbing, chemicals, or abrasive cleaning can permanently alter the surface. A collector would much rather examine an untouched coin than one that has been aggressively scrubbed in an attempt to make it look newer. Now, what about minting pressure? Think about the sheer scale of production. More than 500 million regular 1,973 Washington quarters were struck across Philadelphia and Denver, with San Francisco producing proof examples. Coins were being manufactured rapidly and moved into circulation in enormous numbers. That environment creates opportunities for striking variations, die characteristics, and individual coins with unusual features. But it does not mean every dark spot, scratch, or strange-looking mark is a mint error. This is exactly where collectors separate themselves from casual treasure hunters. If you notice doubling, an unusual rim, a strange design feature, an abnormal edge, or something that genuinely appears to have happened during minting, don't immediately grab a cleaning cloth. Photograph it. Weigh it. Measure it. Compare it with known examples. Then have it professionally examined. Professional grading and authentication are critical if you're dealing with a potentially valuable coin. And I want to address the $471,000 figure provided for this video. A normal 1,973 Philadelphia Washington quarter, though in fine condition, is not automatically worth $471. Zeroth. That number should not be presented as the guaranteed value of an ordinary example, demonstrating how dramatically condition and rarity affect real market prices. NGC's current guide also shows relatively modest values across ordinary grades, with much higher values reserved for exceptional certified pieces. So where does the real hidden treasure angle come from? It comes from understanding that the date alone isn't the treasure. The treasure is the possibility that your coin has something genuinely unusual that the average person would never notice. That's what makes collectors lean closer to the glass, examine photographs, compare populations, and compete for exceptional examples when they appear. At auction, an ordinary circulated 1973 quarter isn't going to create a bidding war, but put an authenticated, exceptionally preserved example or legitimate major rarity in front of serious collectors, and the atmosphere can change completely. Bidders may compete aggressively because the number of truly outstanding examples is far smaller than the number originally produced. That's when a simple piece of pocket change can become a serious collector's target. Your first checklist is simple. Confirm 1973, confirm the absence of a mint mark. Remember that Philadelphia's missing mint mark is normal for this year. Examine the surfaces without touching them unnecessarily. Check the edge. Weigh the coin if you have a precise scale. Look for legitimate mint-made characteristics, not random damage. And if something looks extraordinary, protect it before anyone has the chance to ruin it. Most people would see 25 cents and move on. A collector sees a date, a mint origin, a surface, a strike, and a story. That mindset is why coin hunting can become so addictive. You are not just looking for an old coin, you are looking for the tiny clue that separates an ordinary survivor from an extraordinary one. So if this beautiful 1973 Philadelphia-Washington quarter is sitting in your collection, don't throw it into circulation just because it doesn't have a mint mark. That blank space is supposed to be there. Instead, examine everything around it. The date, surfaces, strike, edge, and any genuine variety or error are what deserve your attention. And remember, patience creates wealth in collecting. Don't clean first and ask questions later. Don't believe an enormous price just because somebody posted it online. Verify first. Preserve the original surfaces, and let professional evidence tell you what you actually have. Because this is the moment most people get wrong. They search for a giant number, but serious collectors search for proof. If your coin has no extraordinary characteristic, it may simply be a historic old quarter. But if it has a legitimate rarity hiding beneath that beautiful surface, you want to discover that before the coin disappears back into circulation. Do not spend this coin until you've checked it properly. And now, get ready because the next coin is even more dangerous to overlook. One tiny detail can separate an ordinary quarter from the kind of discovery that makes collectors stop, stare, and reach for their magnifying glass. Stay with me, because the final reveal could be the one everyone else already spent.